Good evening, welcome to BCN News. Our top story tonight, government will be updating the travel restrictions to Niue. This has been confirmed by the Minister of Health, Billy Talangi, in an interview with BCN News. Speaking in Vangahau Niue, his address was to reassure the community of the work already in place by the Health Department and the government to prepare for COVID-19. Billy Talangi encouraged the people to continue to listen in for updates from the Health Department and not to be distracted by some of the information on social media, especially when those information may not be from credible sources. BCN News understands that the update to the travel restrictions this week is to include Australia on the list of banned countries, which already includes mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Iran, Italy, South Korea, Singapore, Indonesia, and Thailand. Travel from these countries can only be allowed with government authorization. Are all coronavirus cases fatal? This is the main concern and fear of the local communities, which was raised during the ongoing awareness sessions held by the Health Department. Director General of Social Services Gayleen Tasmania told BCN News most people are worried that those who get infected by coronavirus are going to pass away. However, she says the majority of cases are mild.
Most of the people are worried that anyone who gets COVID-19 is going to die, is going to pass away. And that is what's creating this fear because of all the cases and all the media coverage on it. But 80% of these cases have been mild cases. People have recovered from them. So 80% have recovered or mild cases. And then you've got those who get the severe end of the disease, and those are the people who are vulnerable. And we know that those are elderly, over 60 years, and with underlying conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and other heart disease, and other conditions that put them at risk to begin with. So really the message is about everyone else who is healthy and who will probably be able to cope with the sickness, preventing the disease from spreading in a way that our vulnerable populations get affected.
The Director General emphasized the importance for people to follow good practices of maintaining good hygiene, good health, cough and sneeze etiquette, and avoid being in close contact with the sick.
So we are really wanting to go to all the communities. We want people to hear the same message. We want them to understand how the disease is spread to a point where we can allay some of the fears that they have based on all the social media. We know that the message is avoid close contact with people who are sick, wash your hands on a regular basis, and it's not with sanitizer only, it's with soap and water. It's just cheap soap and water is what you've got to do. So cover your coughs and sneezes and avoid close contact. We really need everyone to just get on board. Come to those community sessions. Please ask questions. And if you do have, opinions you want to voice, there are some decisions that are not up to us. It's not in the jurisdiction of health. There is a team working on this in health, but there's also a wider team within the government that are also working at this. But one of the good things that we've seen is if we take examples in the past where we've managed to contain other infections or other communicable diseases from spreading, I think it really comes down to community engagement, community cooperation, and just everyone listening to the advice that we put out and not just what you see on TV. You can't compare countries where there are so many people living in close proximity to a place like Niue where people are out there looking after each other and helping each other, but also we have small numbers. And with those small numbers, we should be able to educate everyone on preventative measures and not be fearful and start to panic about what's going on in other countries, but look around you and see how we can help each other here.
The New Zealand government provides exit screening at the Auckland borders. People showing symptoms will not be allowed to board the aircrafts. In Niue, there are strict measures at the port. Cruise ships are no longer allowed entry. However, the cargo boat is still allowed entry to provide goods for the country. At the Hannan International Airport in Niue, officials are checking people's travel history and are not allowing people from identified affected countries to enter the country.
Travel restrictions, we keep tightening them as the pandemic spreads, I guess, but it's not 100% guarantee that it won't reach here. So we have gone from containment when we saw that it has reached Australia and New Zealand, and we have prepared, we put a lot of effort into making sure that we have supplies on island. We've also ordered our rapid test kits. We can't test anyone who isn't sick. So even if you've travelled from these countries who may have cases, unless you show symptoms, there's no point in testing healthy people. One, we are wasting a resource that we have limited numbers for, but it also means it will give a negative test result, and that tells us, well, it might tell us that the person is not sick but then develops symptoms. So we are looking out for people who become symptomatic. And that's basically what it is. It doesn't matter. A lot of people are coming through who are healthy, and they may or may not develop symptoms. So it's important that the sooner we get to detect someone who is sick and they are reported to us and we isolate, the better prepared we are to stop the spread of this disease. And it may or may not be COVID, that's the thing. They could just be having a common cold. So we're also bringing in the flu vaccine, which we bring in every year. Would like to encourage people to please come in, especially our elderly, to come in and get your flu vax when we get it in the next couple of weeks. And that would just help give you added immunity for the flu, and also help, minimize the numbers that we see in the hospital who come with cold symptoms.
The sitting of the Fono Eke Pule has been postponed to next Wednesday, the 25th of March. BCN has been reliably informed that the postponement is to allow a bill which was scheduled to be tabled this week to be completed. The Fono was scheduled for tomorrow. The official announcement of the specific date of the 2020 general election is also expected to be announced at this meeting next week. In the February sitting, the Premier Sir Toki Talangi had only announced that it will be held in May. The Niue High Court sitting has been postponed due to the preventative measures taken against the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus. The Secretary of Justice and the Registrar of the Niue High Court, Darren Tohovaka, confirmed this to BCN News. The registrar said that the court was scheduled to start next week with one of the New Zealand-based judges. However, yesterday morning a decision was reached to postpone this until further notice. Tohovaka said that they will continue to keep an eye on the situation with the global pandemic and will inform the public when the next court sitting with the New Zealand judge will be held. The University of the South Pacific's 2 graduation ceremonies, which were planned from the 20th of March, have been cancelled as precautionary measures to minimize the risk posed by COVID-19. The University of the South Pacific has also cancelled mid-semester exams, which were supposed to be held over the next 2 weeks.
USB has already issued last week a USB response plan for COVID-19, and in 3 levels, level 1, level 2, and level 3, just like the hurricane categorizing of blue warning states and yellow and red. So I think USPs follow the same in terms of COVID-19. So in this plan, USB is outlining all the necessary steps and precautionary measures to undertake in terms of responding to COVID-19. But so far we haven't, I think the level 3 is, if worst comes to worst, is the closing down of all campuses. But right now the USB is trying to minimize as much as possible the disruption to the classes. But USB already starting cancelling the graduation, which is supposed to be conducted in Lautala this weekend. So that is cancelled. And also major events that are supposed to be held, especially in Lautala and bigger campuses, are already cancelled. The Faculty of Business and Economics already cancelled the mid-semester test that was scheduled for this week and the upcoming weeks.
At the moment, Lole CEO says it's business as usual at the Niue campus.
In terms of Niue, I think Niue is doing well. But the plan is in place to deal with if there are cases in Niue. So the last resort is the closing down of campus. We also are preparing to accommodate the students, the USB Niue students that are currently in Laudala. If Laudala is closing down, they will have to come back, but we have to facilitate their ongoing studies.
And finally, one of the 5 victims of fish poisoning remain in hospital. The 5 were part of a group of 9 who ate a fish called the red bass last week, caught from the Alofi waters. Fish poisoning, also known as ciguatera poisoning, is caused by eating warm water ocean fish that have ciguatera toxins. The toxin is produced by a small organism called dinoflagellate, which attaches to the algae in warm ocean waters in reef areas. The Fisheries Department is advising the public to refrain from consuming the red bass or whangamea, which contains ciguatera fish poisoning.
The ciguatera, which is known to us for how many years now, it's still in place, and we still strongly encourage the public not to engage with any fishing activities that you're not familiar with, especially in terms of what type of fish species that are involved with this ciguatera. So we have also had receive tourists coming to our division asking for this type of information, which is a good thing to do, and we advise visitors also to come into our office if they're not clear about anything and ask them questions on where to go, in particularly the fishing spots. Some of the fish species in the past that we have identified that are associated with this ciguateras are mostly red bass, also known to the locals as whangamea. We haven't had any case where people were poisoned by consuming other types of fish species, but it's mostly the whangamea fish. And they are mostly located here in Alofi Bay or from the 2 points. And not so much on the other villages.
And that's BCN News for tonight. Thank you for watching. Do join us tomorrow, same time. Until then, have a good evening.